Spectre Vision Radio.
Welcome to El Cine Underground, where we expose the film history they left us out of. I'm Mariana Silva. I'm an actor, a playwright, and your host, coming to you from Spectre Vision Radio. Today's episode, we're talking about Cuban cinema. What is it? Myth or memory? Cuban cinema is gorgeous. It's sweaty, it's political, it's playful, it's sexy. It gives you films like Lucía, a historical epic that feels like history trembling on screen. It gives you films like Death of a Bureaucrat that makes you laugh hysterically. And it gives you animation with vampires who are just fighting to go to the beach.
Pronto sabrás quién eres, Pepito. Joseph Amadeus von Drácula. La prueba viviente de mi experimento. Lo mismo anda en las frías noches o bajo el ardiente sol.
It gives you all these things, but most of all, what it does is it seduces you into politics. No Cuban film that we watched through the process of making this episode didn't ultimately speak on politics and freedom and what it means to be free. But what defines Cuban cinema? Is it the actor, the director, or is Cuba itself as the character what delivers and defines what Cuban cinema is? That's what we'll be exploring today. After the revolution in 1959, Fidel Castro declared film as the most important of art forms. Can you imagine the president of the United States declaring film as the most important art form? Exactly. And Cuban filmmakers ran with it. Films have been made in Cuba since the early 1900s, but we are starting in the 1960s, a place where revolution and film intersected and have defined what Cuban cinema is. Watching these films was incredibly inspiring. Cuba, which is such a bright place, is most often depicted completely in black and white. There's something about these films that feel timeless, just like Cuba itself. Cuba has some elements of the past constantly present. Its old cars still fill the streets. Many people really carrying on tradition. It's hard not to have that be present. Any art that you consume from Cuba and any of these films that we watched, no matter what their themes, had a conversation about freedom and people and their experience living in this place where very little is chosen, but more so accepted. Cuban films are always saying something. They're never passive. And because the situation there is so dire, a lot of these films incorporate magical realism, history. Those two things are not separate, and they're accepted just in the natural language of Cuban cinema. Filmmakers describe growing up in Cuba as a place where you're living in fiction. So capturing reality is a duplicity. What is real? Cuban cinema, myth, or memory challenges that same exact idea. These films that we're going to discuss in today's episode really question what society is, what revolution is, and its effects.
Esto es una mierda, Antonio. Esto es una mierda. Tú no lo comprendes. Esto no es lo que queríamos tú y yo. Te vas a quedar ahí como si no estuviera pasando nada. Tú estás ciego. Nos están engañando, Antonio. Comprende, coño, comprende. ¿Qué te pasa a ti? Los que murieron enterrados para el carajo, ¿no? Y nosotros...
Cálmate, cálmate.
Nosotros aquí bebiendo ron, bebiendo cerveza. ¿Y qué? ¿Y ellos dónde están?
Aldo, cállate.
Están muertos,
Aldo,
están muertos. ¿Y
Aldo,
nosotros qué?
Aldo.
¿De qué ha servido? ¿De qué ha servido que ellos hayan muerto? ¿Por qué luchamos? ¿Para qué? ¿Para esto? Esto no sirve. Tú no lo ves, Antonio.
In 1965, Santiago Alvarez gave us Now, a short about racial discrimination of Black North Americans. The piece is about 6 minutes long, and it features photographs as well as news footage from the civil rights marches. Cops with batons, faces screaming for justice, while Lena Horne belts Now. The film feels like a punch in the face, and it was definitely a wake-up call. In 1966, Death of a Bureaucrat was released, a film that is stunning and beautiful in images. It has a beautiful title sequence. It's innovative in every way. But it'll make you laugh nonstop. Think Charlie Chaplin, but instead of factories and machinery, it's paperwork and coffin stamps. A man literally has to dig up a relative to fight the system. You'll laugh, but you'll also be very triggered if you've ever been to a DMV. At first, he needs to help his aunt collect her pension and needs the union card that belonged to his uncle. Now, the union card has been buried with his uncle.
Mire, compañero, yo le voy a explicar. Mi tío, vaya, lo querían mucho sus compañeros porque él inventó una máquina. Entonces, la noche del velorio, fueron los del sindicato a la casa y uno de ellos, emocionado, dijo, yo propongo que el compañero Francisco J. Pérez sea acompañado por su carnet laboral. Y entonces pusieron el carnet laboral dentro del ataúd.
Yo no sé, yo primera vez que veo que una persona la entierran con el carnet laboral.
Bueno, esas cosas pasan.
Pero no deben pasar.
Bueno, pero pasó. Mi tío era obrero ejemplar. ¿Quién tiene la culpa de eso?
Sí, nadie tiene la culpa.
Sí, está bien, pero figúrese, si ahora les va a dar por enterrar a todos los obreros con su carnet
No,
laboral...
a todos los obreros no, que mi tío inventó una máquina.
Sí, señor, está bien, pero yo te lo voy a hacer.
No, ¿qué se le va a hacer? Muévase, haga algo. Porque tampoco ahora ella se va a quedar sin la pensión porque falte ahí un...
Claro, compadre, claro, cálmese.
¿Cómo me va a decir que no sabe lo que va a hacer? Usted está aquí para eso.
Cálmese, compañero. Esto está solucionado ya, ¿sabes?
So he illegally unburies the body, brings it to his aunt's house. There, they keep the body. They find the union card, but then to bury him back, they have to figure out a way to justify it because on paper, he's been buried.
Aquí hay algo que no anda bien.
¿Que no anda qué?
Que no anda bien.
Un momento.
Aquí aparece como que este señor ha sido enterrado hace 3 días.
Pero sí está ahí.
Estará ahí, pero tiene que haber sido exhumado, y eso no consta en este libro.
No contará en ese libro, pero ahí está el cadáver y los familiares y ahí están los papeles.
Mire, por favor, que ya está entrando. Un momento, que hay otro caso por delante, un momento.
Lo siento mucho, pero aquí dice que ese señor ya ha sido enterrado en esa misma bóveda hace 3 días.
Pues ahí es lo que anda mal.
Bueno, pues mientras no conste que ha sido exhumado, no se le puede volver a enterrar. Y eso usted debería saberlo. Así que atienda al compañero.
Un momento que yo estaba...
Compañero, usted no es dialéctico.
No, soy funerario y a mucha honra.
Pero mire,
yo oiga lo que
compañero.
le voy a decir. Tengo 20 años de experiencia. Y sepa usted que he enterrado a ministros, senadores, obispos, generales y doctores. Así que ustedes no tienen nada que enseñar.
Sí, pues a ese señor no me lo entierra. ¿Qué le parece?
Pues sí que lo entierro ya ahora mismo.
The film is a lot of, I'm going to put you on hold and you got to go talk to this person. And I'm going to put you on hold and let me connect you to this person. The film has this conversation about the way the system makes it impossible for people to get what's theirs, how it plays you, and the frustration that leads all of us to a breaking point, which is what makes for perfect comedy.
Mire, vaya al mismo lugar donde le pusieron el puño y diga que le firme el responsable, ahí donde dice visto bueno.
Compañera, pero usted sabe. Ay, mi madre, esto es la muerte.
One of the things that's really special about Death of a Bureaucrat is it experiments a lot. It has this magical realism element that plays against the modern day problems that this character is facing. The idea of not being able to have the right paper would never be something that I would think of as leading to dream sequences and the way that we process things and we become obsessed with things. I always say that magical realism is really special because it's real. When you sleep and you have a dream, it's real for you. You can wake up and feel angry because you had a bad dream, which is exactly what happens in this movie. And it affects your whole day. You'll go on your whole day having a terrible day because you had a bad dream. And this film has a really beautiful balance of playing with the mundane as well as the extreme. This film makes comedic commentary of what is government control. The way that they work things out so you cannot receive the things that are yours, while also selling you the guise of progress and equality. But this film in particular really challenges how difficult things are to actually be what is supposed to make your life better, your life easier, your life more comfortable. This film is so funny because it is the thing that drives us all to our breaking point. And we can all relate to that at any time, even today. How many times are you put on hold? How many times are you told that you are going to be able to collect some sort of unemployment or health insurance? It's that exact same theory, that exact same conversation, and literally the conversation about who gets access? What is access? This poor older woman can't get access to what her husband worked for his entire life. She doesn't really understand. So the film is about her nephew, who isn't even the person mostly impacted. I saw a lot of this when I worked at the immigration center and would see many people who didn't speak the language who could be documented but just weren't being communicated to or weren't being taught what they needed to do. It's another way of oppression, but it's hidden under a mask of support and equality. And that's what makes this film so special, is that it makes jokes while also highlighting how these very small microaggressions keep people suppressed. This film makes us laugh at a situation that would be otherwise devastating and tedious and completely enraging. That's what these films do. That's the seduction of Cuban cinema, is the fact that it makes you watch and see, and it shows you what's happening through entertainment, through laughter, because otherwise we would be devastated.
Mire, yo lo único que quería era un cuño nada más
Sí,
para
todos los
enterrar a
cuños que
mi
te
tío,
quiera, cómo no.
porque
Dígame lo que ve aquí.
Eso es un panteón, doctor.
¿Y aquí qué ve?
Eso es un angelito.
¿Y aquí?
Bueno, eso es una lechuza.
¿Y aquí? Dígame aquí.
Una corona de flores. Cuando yo fui allí a buscar...
Y aquí, dígame lo que ve aquí.
Bueno, esos son dos funerarios cogidos de la mano, eso está claro, doctor. Pero mire, doctor, yo quiero que usted
Mire,
comprenda. Yo soy un trabajador,
venga
un hombre
conmigo,
bueno,
venga conmigo, vamos.
Pero mire, doctor, yo lo único que quería era un cuño para enterrar a mi tío. Mi pobre
no tenga miedo, tranquilo.
Death of a Bureaucrat was directed by Tomás Gutiérrez Alea, who also made the masterpiece Memories of Underdevelopment, a film that is often listed as one of the greatest films ever made. So it deserves much more time, and we will be discussing it in depth in a later episode. But we super encourage you to see Death of a Bureaucrat. It has a lot of things about it that are very unique, and the films have a clear voice behind the filmmaker who really question not only life in Cuba, but also the aftermath of when everybody around you is leaving, which is Memories of Underdevelopment. We hope that you'll dig into his films because they really are seductive in their way of engaging in huge conversations through a very soft focus.
Carretero, no maltrate a este pobre buey tan viejo que ya dobla la cabeza por el peso de los y por senda de cigarro va tirando la carreta y nunca llega a la meta.
Y de todos será la victoria.
I have a confession to make. We are only 3 episodes in, and I've fallen in love with a film called Lucía. It's not my favorite movie. There's a poster in the mail headed my way. It completely moved me and stunned me. It's a film about 3 different Lucías in 3 different time periods in Cuba. The first Lucía is covered in lace, crying in candlelight in the late 1800s.
Perdone.
No importa.
La culpa fue mía.
The second Lucía is swept up in a love affair during the revolution in the 1930s.
Baila un tango.
No, no, un
Vas a
vals.
bailar un tango.
No.
¿Y eso? Eso te pasó por hacer monería.
And the third Lucía is also fighting for her freedom, but not only from the Cuban government, as well as her machista Cuban husband in the 1960s.
Oye,
¿Mm?
yo quiero una cosa.
¿Qué cosa?
Yo quiero que tú me dejes ir a ver a mamá.
Mira, cuando venga Belén a traerte los mandados, tú le dices que pase por casa de la vieja y le diga que ella venga a verte a ti aquí. Eso sí, por la noche, cuando yo esté aquí ya.
Pero ¿por qué tienes ese miedo, mi vida?
Antuna, tú no conoces a la gente de pueblo. La gente de pueblo es mala, yo.
Pero tú le haces caso a la gente. ¿Tú no ves que la gente lo que tiene es envidia?
Mira, la gente de pueblo lo que quiere es comerte. Y aquí el único que come soy yo.
¿Seguro, seguro?
Bueno, me voy, que se me ha hecho verlo más tarde.
Mi vida, ¿tú me dejas ir?
Oigan, usted sabe que yo tengo una sola palabra.
The film is a conversation about the revolution and who it really impacts. Not only the men who are outside fighting for their freedom, but also the results of that fight and how it impacts the women that they would come home to. The film, directed by Humberto Solás, is a iconic movie in the repertoire of Cuban cinema. It's beautiful and it's powerful, and it talks about freedom in a different light, the freedom of the woman and her place in the revolution. The film is also like a classic Cuban film in black and white. It's an epic, 2 hours and a half. The film really talks about revolution from a different perspective and ultimately from the person who it affects the most. While these men are fighting for their freedom from war, from suppression, women are the people on the receiving end of that. So they're not only being suppressed by their government, but they're also being suppressed by the men around them. These films are super feminine, and it really, really shows this picture of the fact that a man will ruin you if you let him. The film really talks about a different perspective of the revolution, a quieter perspective. The films all have a moment where the actress and the character looks at camera, breaking the fourth wall. It's really stunning and very beautiful because you're seeing these little glimpses of life. And always there's a moment where there's an acknowledgement of you watching it and how you receive it and how you perceive it. There's a lot of beauty in community in all these films. Lots of women creating more space for each other. There's this aliveness that's very present, even though the film is in black and white. There's this beautiful element of joy so that when we do see the impact of the revolution, it's a rash contrast to what we've seen in the joy of these times, in the reliefs that it gives us. It makes us fall in love, and then it breaks our hearts. The film really lands you at the conclusion that man ain't shit, and they will ruin your life if you let them, in every century, not just ours. Men have been breaking girls' hearts and spirits since cave.
Estás viviendo de espalda a la realidad.
¿Tú crees que yo estoy de espalda a la realidad, no?
Estos tiempos han cambiado, viejo. Uno puede tratar a tu mujer como si fuera una esclava, como los tiempos de tu abuelo que en paz descansa.
Mira, que uno pinta su casa del color que le da la gana, ¿oíste?
Ya lo sé, Tomás, pero tú no tienes derecho a destruirle la vida a Lucía, que está joven llena de
vida. Mira,
vida.
Flavio, yo tengo mi línea. No me meto en la vida de nadie para que nadie se meta en mi vida, ¿entiendes? ¿Está claro?
Sí, Tomás.
Bueno, me voy a trabajar, que todavía me queda mucho trabajo.
Oye, consejo, muchacho. Más sabe el diablo por viejo que por diablo.
Está bien.
Although the film is in different historical points, it's completely and candidly accurate still till this day. It's a film that shows you three women in three different situations and infatuations with men who they trust, who become their biggest barrier. It also challenges family. The second Lucía doesn't have a good relationship with her mother, which makes her want to leave her home, putting her further into the arms of this man who is fighting the revolution. Now, even in stories of complete, beautiful, trusting love, there's still tragedy. And the tragedy that is the risk of being in love, why a lot of us avoid love, because ultimately it's incredibly scary to have someone you love out in the world, let alone at a time where war and military force is being enforced on people. The way that it impacts society, it boils down to these women. They often start as these bright and excited women, and by the end of every single one of these stories, they've completely lost sense of who they are. Lucía is a film about the fight for equality, for freedom, whether that be from your government or from those around you who suppress you. It also really talks about how society itself enforces a lot of the machismo that is happening at that time, the way women relate to each other. Until this vignette that is in the 1960s, there is often no fight towards liberation of themselves and these men. It's really powerful when you get to the era of the 1960s because you start to see women who have stepped into their power so fully. In the 1930s, you see women, the female characters, tiptoeing with that line. It's the ultimate film about liberation because it challenges the liberation of home country and the liberation of home.
Vuelve con tu padre. Yo no puedo darte nada. Solo puedo traerte problemas.
Yo quiero estar a tu lado, Aldo. Yo cojo el camino que tú escoges. Soy tu mujer, Aldo. Tu mujer.
Suelta eso y anda para casa.
No voy a soltar nada.
Tú vas a hacer lo que yo quiero, chica.
No voy a ir porque no me da la gana.
Tú vas a hacer lo que yo quiero.
Voy a estar cumpliendo con tu
Esa gente, no me falta el respeto.
Tú no eres nada.
Tú vas a ir para la casa
No,
conmigo.
aquí yo vine
Esa
aquí,
gente,
no
no
oiga,
te salame,
por favor.
cállese la boca.
Déjame, voy, que me tiene muy cansado.
Lucía is a portrait of womanhood, but told by a man. One of the few female voices of Cuban cinema is Sara Gomez, a filmmaker we lost way too early. She passed when she was only 31. She made a film one way or another in 1977 that feels like you are walking through the streets of Havana. It has kids playing barefoot in the streets, Afro-Cuban rituals, new construction sites rising, and in the middle of it all, a love story between a worker and a teacher. It's raw, it's tender, it's political. Gomez showed us that identity isn't abstract. It's how you love, how you argue, and how you live day to day.
Yo te digo, Mario, créeme, la melodía de esa gente no dejan el ambiente por cobardía.
¿Por qué por cobardía?
Sí, por cobardía, maestro. Todos le tienen miedo a la cosa que hay fuera del ambiente. ¿Sabe lo que es manual? Cómo vivir en él, cómo desenvolverse. Fuera del ambiente no son nadie. Yo te digo a ti que hay que ser más valiente para zafar el ambiente que para seguir viviendo en él.
Gomez, being a young female filmmaker, met a filmmaker coming to make a film in Cuba named Agnes Varda, and she assisted her in the making of Salud le Cuban, made in 1963. The two remained friends, and Gomez took a lot of influence from Varda, who often mixed documentary filmmaking as well as narrative filmmaking.
Mira, espera. ¿Qué tú piensas de eso de Mari? Han fumado una cámara húngara, todo el mundo a la misma vez y casi tienen la misma opinión. Mira, bárbaro, yo soy revolucionario. Tú no eres revolucionario, suponiendo, tú eres amigo mío, tú eres un jugador, falta el trabajo. Pero independientemente de eso, tú me tienes que respetar a mí como amigo, como hombre, como revolucionario. Yo jamás puedo permitirte a ti como revolucionario que tú me vengas a decir a mí, oye, bárbaro, ¿qué horas son? Las 3. Mira, a ver, si tú me marcas la tarjeta, ahí oírme. Tú me tienes que respetar a mí.
You can see Varda's influence in Sara Gomez's work. Her style has a very European aesthetic. In this film, My Contribution, it challenges the role of women in their fight for equality in society. She has different women of different generations speak on their role. Initially, it starts in a conversation about their role in the revolution, and then becomes increasingly passionate about their roles at home. It depicts the man who holds women back, as well as what the role of the man would be in an equal household. That a man is often not seen as strong when he takes a lot of the roles of women, and how society encourages that kind of narrative. One woman even implies and suggests that A strong man is someone who is able to work equally to the woman as well as care equally to the woman.
Entonces, mi experiencia personal es que entablar una relación humana con el hombre cubano, permeado del machismo que su madre le alimentó con el biberón, porque además imagínate que las grandes perpetuadoras del machismo somos las mujeres. Ahora bien, yo creo que lo fundamental aquí es tratar de encontrar alguna forma de llevar a la gente que va a ver esto, ¿no? Y que va a ver todo lo que Sara nos enseñó antes, que cuando se habla de que la mujer es ausentista, de que la mujer no va al trabajo, de que la mujer no cumple, de que la mujer fomenta el paternalismo en el trabajo, la mujer no está haciendo sino hacerle el juego a la situación establecida, en la misma forma en que lo hace mamá cuando le da a la niña una muñeca y al niño un juego de mecano para construir. Y a lo mejor la niña es una ingeniera que se está frustrando. Y el niño nunca va a pasar de nada.
But Cuban cinema wasn't always so serious. In 1985, Vampires in Havana, a fast, hilarious, animated story about a trumpet player who is a vampire and creates a serum to be able to walk in his home of Cuba in the sun. Some gangsters from Europe hear the serum and decide to try to get a hold of it, some to profit off it and others to use it. The film becomes a jazz chase through Havana, filled with bullets, brass, and fangs, and satire, all in one. It proves that Cuba could make you laugh, make you dance, and sneak in politics in between the punchlines.
No, estoy soñando. No puedo ser un vampiro. Camino al sol, me reflejo en los espejos, no chupo sangre.
Tú a los 5 años, cuando llegamos aquí, eres un nuevo tipo de vampiro gracias a mi fórmula.
Hay un ambiente general que si te cuento no te aburro, y es que dicen que hay un burro que se encuentra encaramado en lo alto del palacio, sí señor, presidencial.
We here at El Cine pick these films to watch and sometimes surprise ourselves. This film has really funny elements because it has the idea of colonialism and appropriation and all the different kinds of things that are subjects in all these films we are discussing in this episode today. With vampires animated, lots of animated nudity, some very racist illustrations that are not good. We pick this film because it's very underground. It feels like someone made it in their basement with an incredible trumpet player. The film has these very fantastical elements while having these big discussions. The film also has a dialect that is of its own. It's the Cuban accent, but like all things in the film, incredibly exaggerated.
¿Dónde está el jefe?
Tratando de sacarle más billetes a Tapone.
Estoy esperando unos meses más hace tiempo, Johnny.
Es peligroso.
Lo sé, tío.
Quédate.
Tío, es que hay algo raro en esta casa. Me da escalofrío. Mira todo esto. Impresiona. Pasas meses encerrado en tu laboratorio. Tienes que salir a tomar el sol, divertirte un poco, ir a la playa, con el sol sabrosón que hay aquí.
The film is also very political because these groups of vampires, some are European and some are American, and they're fighting for the same thing. They're essentially the same type of people coming to Cuba to find ways to profit. Cuba was often a playground for Americans, and this film addresses that. It addresses the fact that people were coming, they were taking cigars, they were taking things that were of Cuba and bringing them to these places in another way of colonialism. Vampires in Havana is meant to shock. It's provocative. It's very homemade. This film, like all the other films we're discussing in this episode, feel very, very Cuban. Although it's from a vampire's perspective, it feels like the person is coming from understanding all the aspects of being Cuban and all the ways that Cubans have been oppressed. Now, here's where it all gets messy. Siboney, 1942, directed by Juan Orol, a Spaniard who was raised in Cuba, starring Maria Antonieta Pons, a Cuban goddess of the rumberas, but it was shot in Mexico. So, what is it? Is it Mexican? Cuban? Is it all of it? And then I Am Cuba, Soy Cuba, from 1964. Directed by a Russian bankrolled by the Soviets. It's often named one of the most important films of all time, and if you watch it, you'll see why. I Am Cuba, Soy Cuba is iconic, but is it Cuban? Or is it outsiders playing with the struggles of the people? That's the paradox. The images haunt you, but the gaze isn't ours. And this is the bigger Latin cinema problem, identity. Luis Buñuel, Spanish by birth, made his best films during his time in Mexico and is often referred to as a Mexican director. Wim Wenders, German, but will forever be tied to the Buena Vista Social Club. Call it out as cultural looting? I don't know. Maybe Cuban cinema isn't about passports at all. Maybe it's about the politics, the urgency, the refusal to be quiet in a system that's trying to oppress you. Because whether it's satire, melodrama, or vampires, Cuban cinema always hits with history, with identity, and with fire. And you can feel it.
Soy Cuba. Tus manos están hechas al arado, Mariana. Pero ahora tienen un fusil. Disparas, no para matar. Disparas contra tu pasado. Disparas para defender tu porvenir.
So, Cuban cinema, myth or memory? Cuban cinema is beautiful. It's unforgettable, it's daring, and then it's culture. It's messy, it's complicated, sometimes stolen, and sometimes reclaimed. Cuban cinema is like Cuba itself. Too political to ignore, too playful to dismiss, and too damn hot to pin down. And maybe that's the point. Don't label it. Watch it. Feel it. Argue about it. And let it haunt you past when the credits roll. Because Cuban cinema, like Latin cinema, refuses to sit still. And that's exactly why we love it. Gracias for hanging out with me. And if you like this, subscribe for more. And follow us at Somos El Cine on Instagram. El Cine is a film collective based in Los Angeles, doing everything in our power to bring these films we talk about to your local cinema. So follow along. We have screenings that align with this podcast. Join us. Come hang with us. And we'll see you at El Cine or here on SpectreVision Radio. This podcast would not be possible without the work and emotional support of Angel Salinas.
SpectreVision Radio.